apparently we are gay.
The transgenderism stuff.
Tyler.
Unfortunately.
Hello.
Don't say that.
I hear tell you have a marvelous Mexican.
Yeah, it's the marvelous is really.
I have my favorite. I have my favorite Mexican.
Yes.
I don't want to give him too much credit, but he's a pretty marvelous Mexican.
I've been called Mexican Aragorn plenty of times.
It is the hair. Well, right now it's in a man bun right now, so I don't know how much I really accept it. But
you can't tell if he's Mexican or Chinese.
Yes, that's essentially. No, he's got most of a beard. So I mean, the distinction is clear.
I also don't have you. I don't know how racist I can be. I was gonna say I also don't have yellow skin.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that see that the society doesn't consider you white, and so you can be as racist as you like.
Yeah,
it's acceptable.
Yeah, thankfully, since you're on the brown side,
sometimes
you can say whatever you want.
I forget that I'm a minority.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I'm gonna have to bring you in here more so I can write things down for you to say out loud that we aren't normally allowed to say on here.
You guys get the N-word pass. Who's your card?
By proximity.
Sort of like that dude that hired a black guy to add nigga to each of the end of his sentences.
That was one of the funniest skits of all time, by the way. We do have to put that in air quotes. Sean is merely quoting what someone else has done here.
It is true. A man has done this thing.
A man did this TM, the N-word. Okay, well, unfortunately, the reason why we're all here is because, unfortunately, we have to talk about something. And we're going to do, Sean, what you have to do, you have to do the thing and tell me the thing you're drinking, and I'll surprise you.
Okay. Well, first off, I'm going to see if you can guess what I'm drinking.
So, I don't know if I've told Manny this. So, when we originally started this years ago, this was the Super Whiskey Brothers podcast, and what we did was we talked about stuff, but we'd smoke we'd review cigars and different whiskeys and stuff, and then when Sean moved away because of formerly mentioned idiocy, we started doing it this way, which made it a lot different. So we would still try to drink whiskey when we were on the show, and then it became a very early morning thing, and then we end up always drinking coffee instead. So my guess for Sean is always coffee.
Okay. Well, you must not have heard the sound because I didn't have.
You're drinking a Bud Light then.
I'm not quite that gay yet. No, I had to go with the polar opposite. I did get Yingling just for the occasion.
You did.
Yeah. No. And that said, hold on. I can't guess what. There's no way I can guess what you're drinking, Tyler. Manny, I have to guess, is drinking either Corona or tequila.
Good
top shelf margarita.
Good guesses. Manny just got here and it's early, so I made him a cup of coffee. And
Kahlua.
I've been up with Kahlua. I've been awake for 2 hours now because I woke up too early. So I've already had coffee, so I'm having the only other obvious option for an old man.
Prune juice?
Prune juice. I'm having water like an absolute peasant.
Maniac.
I never touched the stuff myself, but I hear it's good for emergencies.
Yeah, no. If you're willing to censor this out, I never drink water. Fish fucking it.
I'll forget.
We do generally censor ourselves on here when we say things, but
sure,
we're going to find out later. Okay, so today we're doing something revolutionary, something that no one has ever done before.
Not a
ever.
single person. I promise you, the Democracy has never done it. I promise the Sunburned Albino has never done it.
No, if you Google,
no one else.
if you try to Google what we're doing or put this into YouTube, 0 results. You'll break Google. The AI will freak out.
Mm-hmm. So we're doing Souls boss rankings.
Yep, brand new. Never heard of.
Okay, so we came up with our top 10 best, worst, and hardest. Now, haven't talked to you about formatting yet, and so I'll see what sounds good to the 12 of you. Would you say we go down, 10 to 1 in each category, or 10 of each category, 9 of each category, and so on?
You as to reveal the number 1 at the end.
The number 1 of each thing is the very last thing. So
I would suggest, if I could suggest, I think we should do all of each category, and I think we should do bad, hard, best.
Bad, hard, best. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the order. And I should clarify. I just realized that for best and for worst, I don't think I have these in the right order.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm going to switch. So I'm just going to tell you, number 1 and number 7 are going to be switched around.
Okay.
Because that's what I'm going to say for the first there, just because it's the biggest disappointment. But yeah, we'll go over. Do you want to? Why don't we? Do you want to do number 10 each, then number 9 each, or do you want to just give each other's list and then talk about it?
Yeah. No. Yeah. So you said on one time you said good, hard, worst, or the other way around, bad, hard, worst.
Worst bosses, hardest bosses, best bosses.
Okay, because I keep getting screwed up because I have them on my document as best, worst, hardest. So like almost exactly the opposite. Yeah, let's do our 10s, and then that way all the 1s are revealed at the same time, same-ish time.
So we each do 10, each do 9, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, shall I start?
Oh yes.
So I went ahead and left out the majority of Demon Souls and included no Sekiro bosses for mine, because Sekiro I technically never finished, and Demon Souls I've only played through 1 time, so I only gave 1 Demon Souls boss for the whole thing, and it's in my bad category. But I think you said you might be doing Demon Souls and Sekiro in yours to make this a little more diverse.
Yeah, not very many, but there are some. There are some
Okay.
Demon Souls.
I did quite a bit of Elden Ring, mostly because I've played it more than the rest of them, and you've not finished it. So I figured you wouldn't have all the options. So I tried to stick to more of those.
Yeah, I have very little Elden Ring on mine.
I figured you would. Okay, so number 10 for me is going to be an Elden Ring. So that's I have several duo fights on here, but the gargoyle duo fight. I don't remember what it's called, but you have to fight 2 of those giant gargoyle statues at the same time.
The Valiant Gargoyles.
The Valiant Gargoyles, thank you. And it's that's just because I don't like duo fights in general, but this is the worst one because you can reach it very early, which is fine, except for that it is the two of the most aggressive enemies that you can technically meet as normal enemies. They're just slightly tougher versions of a very annoying enemy, extremely aggressive, and they just throw in the arena together, and they're just like, have fun, stupid. And it's just difficulty for the sake of difficulty. It's not like a true test of your ability in any real way. It just sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can see why you might have said that. Those made it to a list, but not the worst list for me. But yeah.
There's no way you put it in the best, because if it is, I'm going to drive to your house and strangle you.
They did not make it to the best. Something surprisingly similar did, though. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, then say the other thing. Also, Manny, whenever you have an opinion about one, just jump. Since Manny doesn't have a list, so when you see one that you know what we're talking about, just jump in, or just if you want to like.
Hey, I know that, boss.
Hey, also yes.
Mm-hmm.
I really dislike the Godskin duo. That was more.
It's the same concept.
Yeah, but it is later on in the game. Before you get to I can't remember his name.
Malekith.
Yeah.
It's right before Malekith.
Yeah. And it kept me up at night. But I was running bleed build too. So, or decided to go get Rivers of Blood just because of that fight.
Decided to fake getting good because the fight's awful.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. I think and I have Godskin Duo actually. I'm about to come up very soon in one of our lists. Very very soon. But yeah, it's the same concept. Is because it's like they're just if it was a situation where they were creating difficulty by making the boss difficult in some way, I'm all for it. But when they're like, "Hey, stupid, here's another thing inside of the arena, and you're just gonna have to deal with it." There's one of those where there's a Misbegotten and a Crucible Knight. If you go to, is it Redmane? It's not Redmane Castle, is it? No. It's the other one in Caelid where you eventually have to fight the boy. I almost said Radagon. Oh gosh, darn
Radagast.
Radagast, yes, Radagast the Brown. But whatever. It's if you come to his castle at the right time, you fight them instead of it being empty. It's the same concept, and it just sucks.
Yeah. So the I haven't got to this point myself, unfortunately, but I've seen that the Godskin Duo can be fairly easily trivialized by stacking Assassin's Gambit with Sleep Pots.
Yeah, sleep pots are how a lot of people beat the game. I will beat it. I will say, I have them on my list. I'll go ahead and tell you. You can give your top two. Godskin Duo is number 9 for me because technically I don't hate the fight, but I never found it hard because I was also someone I did bleed right away because I love bleed the most in Dark Souls 3. So I started off as a bleed build in Elden Ring. So by the time I got to the Godskin Duo, I'm dual wielding, curved swords. And I'm stacking everything. So, I mean, you can kind of trivialize it by just being a damage machine. So, I mean, I first tried them because they're very susceptible to bleed, and I bled the crap out of them. And I'd already fought some of them, so I knew what they were doing. So, is it garbage that they did it? Yes. It's bad on my list because basically if you defeat both of them, you have to wait, and then both of them respawn again, and then you have to do a little bit of damage to a 5th target. So that's stupid. That's the reason why they're on my bad list as a top 10, because it's disappointing because it could have been something cool, I think. But yeah, for me, it wasn't that difficult because I was already in a build that trivialized the fight, which is what Bleed Build does to most bosses, if we're being honest.
Funny you should mention that, like, they each respawn and then one respawns again, just because every time I've ever seen the fight done, the noble respawns and the boss is killed completely with the first respawn of just the noble.
So that's what I do now with my really high-end bleed build. You can keep dealing damage and get bleed procs after one of the targets is quote-unquote dead. So you can actually one-cycle it, and I have one-cycled it before. But yeah, and honestly, the respawn just has to do with who you killed first. So if you kill Noble first, he'll be the first one to respawn.
Okay.
If you kill Apostle first, he'll be the first one to respawn. So it just goes in the cycle. But yeah, the reason why that happens is if people are trying to play it properly, they'll kill Noble first, they go take out Apostle, and then just swing hard on Noble again when he pops up, and then they can usually get it in 3. But I have one-cycled it, and that is the right way to do it, though, if you can. But we should move on. Give us your list.
Okay, so my 2, these are just because they're not really good fights. They're just boring. Number 10 is the Old Demon King. Boring fight, not a fan.
Yeah,
I think I could have easily substituted any of the Izalith bosses, really. So Old Demon King from Dark Souls 3, Ceaseless Discharge from Dark Souls 1. Any of them could have fit there. They're just... Izalith is a silly place, and its inhabitants are boring.
Very silly place. I actually almost put Ceaseless Discharge on my list as well. I didn't merely because, I mean, I think I had plenty of things in here that could fill my top 10 for bad, and I'm like, Sean will say that one anyways. He's more of the DS1 aficionado than I am. He'll definitely bring it up, so I thought there's no point in me doing it.
Yeah, and the only reason why I think I settled on Old Demon King instead of Ceaseless for this spot is because it is fun to Mufasa Ceaseless when he jumps across the pit.
It is fun.
But yeah, and then number 9 is Deacons of the Deep. They are the least bad of the mob bosses, but there are no good mob bosses.
Yeah, so you're probably going to have Rat King in here then.
I haven't played enough Dark Souls 2 to really do it, but yeah, the Rat King, the The Rat
Same
King
thing.
and the Royal Rat Emissary both deserve a spot on this list, but I haven't fought either of them, so I couldn't speak to it.
I have. They're awful. Let's move on.
Okay. And then I'll give my number 8. Number 8 worst boss, going back to Dark Souls 1, is Pinwheel. It's funny because of how terrible he is.
Yes.
But it's a neat idea, the teleportation and the fireballs and stuff. And I think if the boss was any more difficult, there was no way to do Pinwheel right. It's a fantastic idea, but if he was any more difficult, then he might actually be too hard. And not good in that way, but leaving him how he is, he's too easy, and it's just not fun. he's not fun to fight.
Manny, I know we've played with you on Dark Souls 3, and I think Bloodborne as well. Mm-hmm. Did you ever play Dark Souls 1 and 2?
Not 2.
I'm glad. That's the one to skip.
Yeah, that was done intentionally. I think I don't know this would be considered a boss, but the Draconic Tree Sentinel duos were
that's a boss. Yeah, they get their own named health bar. You can count them.
Yeah, I absolutely despise that. And when you fight them on the bridge before the actual boss, I'm trying to remember his name.
That's a good bit before like Margit or Godfrey.
Yeah, it's I absolutely despise that. I pretty much had to like completely, for me personally, playing, just come back to that area until like another like 50 levels.
That's another thing too, is the reason why I didn't put them on here. I did think about them though, because I have several duo bosses on here, so I didn't put them in here because you can just run right by them. I mean, you run right by them. You've got a you've got a Side of Grace. Just a few feet past them, you can just run to it and hit it, and then they reset back at the gates, and then you just, if you don't want to fight them, you just don't. So I mean, that's the only reason why I didn't put them in. I agree with you, they're stupid, but I didn't put them on here because I've already got some other duo fights, and they're completely skippable.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that the random ancient dragon that pops up, and I think it's in Altus.
Yeah.
When my first time coming through that area, I was low health. I saw him coming. I just kept running and forgot to go back, so I actually never even fought that guy. Don't know what he's like.
Yeah, and he'll actually run away from you if you fight him there. So even if you would have fought him, you wouldn't have killed him.
Is this
so it's quite stupid.
The giant white, I can't remember his name, the giant white dragon that like...
I get the names messed up very badly.
Something ballsack or whatever.
Yeah.
They're all something ballsack.
Yeah.
That's all the dragons to me.
He ends up like running away, and you fight him again later.
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
I've got 2 things on my list here. One's gonna make Sean angry, and that's fine. So my number 8 is, I went ahead and put Curse Rotted Greatwood.
Okay.
It's so dumb. It's just a dumb fight. You have a bunch of little, I mean, depending on how you are, like if it's your first playthrough.
Speaking of ball sacks.
Yeah, you beat the ball sacks. If it's your first playthrough, you're probably not maxed out the way you should be for that area. So all the little guys running around you are not 1 or 2 shots. They're 3 and 5 shots, depending on which one. So all the little guys running around the arena are annoying. They can kill you by themselves. Not too bad if you're trying to focus on them. And then the only thing that makes him hard in any way is in the first part, before he breaks the ground and falls down. The only hard thing about the first part is the guys running around. And the only thing about the hard part is they do it in such a way that you must get in front of him and smack the hand. And the hand is just stupid. It's just this floating white hand that will swing at you randomly, and it makes you want to jump off of the bridge and just like, I hate it, I'm not coming back here. So he's in here just because he sucks.
Yeah. Now that said, if you go through it right, and not even just leveling right, just if you do your attacks right and do things in the right order, you will be able to get by with only having to hit the hand like 2 or 3 times. But
and it's still stupid. It's still stupid.
Yeah, no, it's not the best. It didn't make my top 10 worst, but just because I had to put more I also put a stupid plant. No, wait, you're still doing number 8. Never mind. Because
that was
I thought you said you had 2 for number 8. You said I have a couple of things here.
Oh, a couple of things here to say bad about the Curse Rotted Greatwood.
I gotcha. Well, you go ahead and give your number 7, and I'll do.
Okay, I have to switch these two because I have my list wrong. I'm gonna go ahead and say Bed of Chaos for number 7. There's nothing necessarily difficult about it except for the platforming makes no sense.
Yeah.
You can die for no reason at all from gravity. There's nothing difficult about the boss itself. I mean, you're just gonna die from gravity at least once. I mean, bare minimum, Bed of Chaos is gonna gravity you one time, and you're gonna be like, "This is the dumbest thing ever," and then run back to it's annoying. Doing it again is annoying, and then when you actually get it done, you're like, "I didn't get any better and win this fight. I just didn't fall this time. Very stupid. Nothing else to say about it."
Yeah. So
And that's a DS1, so I don't know if you fought that one yet or fought that one or not, but
yeah. So my number 7, I picked a stupid plant. Also, and so it makes sense. Although I think that you might say, oh, that doesn't count because it's a chalice boss. I'm gonna say it counts because I hate it. Miranda. Miranda is a fun enemy. I hate it. I think Miranda as a boss is the stupidest thing in the world.
yeah. A lot of the chalice, I didn't include any chalice bosses just because.
I say
technically
chalice.
speaking-
It's not catacombs either. It's a cave boss.
I thought you actually meant.
Yeah,
I thought you
it's
were
not actually a
actually meant
chalice.
the flower.
It's an Elden Ring chalice boss.
An Elden Ring. Yeah, Elden Ring catacombs are essentially the chalice bosses. Go ahead and do a couple more because we're gonna start repeating bosses that we're not going to talk about. So go ahead and do a couple more. Go to 5.
Okay, 6.
No, go to 5.
Oh,
do 6.
do 6 and 5. I got you. Okay,
You
so,
idiot.
Yeah, so 6 and 5. Number 6. I think I should have switched this one with number 9 because this I said the Deacons was the least bad mob boss. But this one I think is probably the least bad mob boss because it sometimes has some fun moments. Even though I think they're very similar, but the Living Failures is number 6.
That's my number 6.
They
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's good for a mob boss, but it's still a mob boss.
It's the best mob boss, and it's still terrible.
Yeah, and then number 5, really is probably my least favorite Dark Souls 1 boss, but I don't know. I'm indifferent to a lot of bosses, right? You'll see you'll see more Dark Souls 3 than anything else on here. But that's just because that's where most of my experience goes. But either way. So number 5 is the Moonlight Butterfly.
Okay, that's just because it's dumb.
Yeah, just because it's dumb, yeah.
It's dumb. There's nothing really to say about that. It's just dumb. So number 6, same as yours, Living Failures, Bloodborne, DLC boss. Number 5, I went ahead and put King of Lant in there. I put False King of Lant in there. I know it's old King of Lant, but I've also like to say False King of Lant. This is just bad because as like a big
of the
bad,
Soul Steel.
Yeah. Being a big bad in Demon Souls, it's only because of one thing. It's a good fight outside of the one attack where he literally takes away your levels. It is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's just trivialized difficulty. I know they probably thought, like, how cool is this? No, in a game where you're grinding for your levels while you're grinding to get better, just trivially taking away some of your levels and it does not do anything to your skill. It doesn't do anything to make him better. It's stupid. It's an incredibly dumb mechanic, and I am very upset with them for putting it in there. It's so stupid. It's like one of those things where you're like, that was dumb. I can't believe they did this. Go die. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to 2 that we can do number 1 at the same time because we're going to start hitting up some of the same stuff here.
Okay.
So my number 4 you're going to disagree with. I have Rom.
Okay. Yeah. No.
I hate Rom.
Yeah. No. Rom's not the best. I understand why that could be on the list.
It's my least favorite part of a Bloodborne playthrough. Honestly, fighting Rom is the low point for me of Bloodborne. I hate it. I hate the fight. I think it's so stupid. It's dumb. The entire concept is dumb. The only thing difficult about fighting Rom is all the little spiders around. If they weren't there, it would be a very, very easy fight. Like, all of his attacks that actually can hurt you really badly are incredibly telegraphed. You do the same thing every time to avoid them. It's just the little spiders that can one-shot you if they dive on you. and then you have to walk around them to hit them. It's dumb. It's stupid. Don't ever talk to me about them again. I hate it.
Wait, hold that thought real fast.
Babies.
I want to grab my drink out of the car.
Don't let the dogs out. Obviously.
And I'm back.
I hear a small child. Manny went out to get a drink from his car, but while he's gone, I want to go ahead and say my number 3 is Pinwheel. I have him in here too. I have him in here as worse than you did, lower than you did, however you want to think about that. I just dislike the concept. It's frustrating. I mean, obviously there's going to be some bosses that you can be easier than others because of when you reach them. They can be easier because you have the right weapon for them, whether you meant to or not. There's all kinds of reasons why a boss can be easier. And Pinwheel's just stupid. It's just a stupid one to put in there, and he's bad. I don't know that I should have put him at 3. I definitely could have put him higher up and felt just as good about it. But I was like, you know what? When I was doing the list, he happened to be the 3rd one I thought of, and I'm like, he's thinking there. If I thought of him 3rd, maybe he is that bad. It's a frustratingly stupid fight. And then what really sucks is a lot of players don't die. A lot of players will die to this boss because maybe they're early on in the game, maybe they haven't played enough Souls games, yada yada yada, whatever. But it's one of those feelings where when you do beat him and you realize how easy it was, you want to break your controller into pieces because it's the stupidest thing ever. But yeah, I was just talking about a boss that Sean had already mentioned that's on my list while you were gone. I'll go ahead and give my number 2.
Real fast. I need to see as one of the people of the Super Whiskey Bros podcast. I need you all to see that I'm raising this one right. Patrick, what's this?
Beer.
Yeah, it's beer. Hey Patrick, what's in this cup?
Coffee.
Yeah, it's coffee.
We know the important things. The 2 major food groups. Okay.
Gone.
Yeah, it's all gone.
All right. Number 2 is the reason why everyone hates duo fights. The real reason why. And I mean, like, because in Dark Souls 1, we have a really good duo fight, which I won't mention out loud because there's no way he's not on one of your other. They're not on one of your other lists because it's the few examples of a good duo fight.
So I'll say Ornstein and Smo deserves a spot near the top of the best.
Yeah, and that's where they are. Well, actually, yeah, they're decently good for me. They're fantastic. But number 2 is the real reason why people hate duo fights, and that's Lud and Zalin.
Oh.
Lud and Zalin, the King's Pets, DLC bosses for Dark Souls 2. They're in a garbage area with garbage maneuverability and garbage difficulty. They're hard just because they're 2 hyper-aggressive, high-health enemies. They put them in an arena that sucks together. They should not have been in the game. It was one of those bosses that Dark Souls 2, they were like, hey, people really like the bosses in Dark Souls. Maybe we should put more bosses in Dark Souls 2. And it was one of those bosses that were just in there for the sake of being in there. I hate them. They should all die. So go ahead and go all the way to number 1 for you.
Okay, so going through number 2. It's 4. It's starting with 4, right? 4, 3, 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 4 is a Demon Souls boss, but it's not the true King Alant as the worst.
Oh, it's gonna be. You're the big blob. That's fine. You can say it.
No. It's not him though.
Okay.
He's not number 4. It is a Demon Souls boss. It's not him, and that would be the Man-Eater duo, the real worst duo boss.
That is kind of garbage.
They just suck. It's not. I mean, that was where they had the idea for the gargoyles. In Dark Dark Souls, and the gargoyles were actually good, but they screwed up. They screwed up for Demon Souls.
True.
Number 3 is my second least favorite mob boss, and that would be Renala.
Interesting.
Yeah. And my true favorite mob boss, true least favorite mob boss, and it's just number 2, and it's just because it's so stupid. Like, it's not fun, it's not hard, it's not, there's nothing good to say about this boss, and that is the Celestial Emissary.
The Celestial
The
Emissary.
Celestial Emissary
Okay.
is my least favorite
I
mob
just-
boss. Now,
I don't know.
I think there's a
That's so
worse one in
easy.
Dark Souls 2. There's a couple worse mob bosses in Dark Souls 2, but I haven't fought them.
So interesting choice for worst mob boss because that one's so easy to trivialize.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, like, it's not like it's a problem. It's an easy fight. You know, it's one of the easiest fights in the whole game.
Yeah,
But it's just stupid.
I agree. It's stupid. I'll give you that. All right, before we do our number one, since you didn't have a chance to make an actual list, Manny, so like number one, worst of all time of all the Dark Souls games, worst boss ever.
Worst boss?
We're not gonna eat candy, buddy.
Make me think. Okay.
And if you don't remember the name, you can just describe it. We'll remember it probably. We're nerds.
The Bloodborne boss, and it's the one where you're. I can't remember. It's the lightning boss. I had to choose him.
Dark Beast Parl?
Parl,
Not Dark Beast Parl. No, he's not the because he's
It was
fun.
some beast.
It's the abhorrent beast.
Yes.
The abhorrent beast. Yeah, that's a stupid fight. And what we should clarify, the worst thing with that boss is the camera.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fighting the camera.
Yeah, so I have worse of a problem with the camera on Parl than with him, but no, there are two. You fight that
And
boss
you're right, it is
potentially.
worse with Carl. But
Yeah, you fight that boss potentially 3 times. The beggar that turns into one, and then you fight him twice in the Chalice dungeon if you're trying to get the platinum trophy to get to Queen Yarnum. In one of those, he's easy to cheese because you can poison him, and it's a big arena, and you can run away from him. The other time, even doing the poison, you cannot run away from him fast enough because it's such a small arena. So you have to you can poison him, but while that's going on, you still have to fight him legit. And he is. I completely forgotten about him. I hate him. I hate him. The only boss the only Bloodborne boss I hate worse than that, and I maybe should have found his way on my list now that you made me think of it, is the cursed dungeon dog. Watchdog of the Old Lords.
Oh yeah, that's garbage too.
Specifically in the cursed dungeon where you have half health.
Yeah, that's a garbage ball. I remember I only went through the dungeons one time with you to get platinum, and I remember that being a low point, a serious low point of the chalices. But that's I'm okay. I'm going to give mine last because I have a very controversial number one.
Okay, my number one for the worst boss, and not because it's such a bad thing, is just because it is a bad. Man, it almost doesn't deserve a spot here because it's so lore heavy. And it's
If
the way
we give the same answer, this is going to be amazing.
And it's the way the boss is the way it is because of lore, but just from a gameplay perspective, it's just so bad, and it has to be number one worst. The same concept as bad but good for lore, except for this was actually better for lore, and that would be the True King Alant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, he was higher up on my list, but he's bad.
You said False King Alant was you? I remember you giving True King Alant.
No. I was saying I am. Oh, that's right. He has a different. They don't all have that same move, do they?
Yeah. So here's the thing.
That's right. You're right.
There's the False King Alant, which is the guy who runs around, and he's not actually King Alant. He's a demon that looks like him.
Yeah.
Then there's the True King Alant, and he's the Blob.
Yeah. I forgot about that. I get because there's 3 different ways to say it and the different lore stuff, and I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, that's terrible because it's just like you just put it out of its misery. That's frustrating. All right, get ready to be upset. The worst boss for me is because of the levels of disappointment.
I know what you're gonna say. You mentioned this to me before. I know exactly what you're gonna say.
I don't think you do know, but I'll be impressed if you do.
Okay, do you want me to guess?
Yeah, I do.
Moon Presence.
No.
Okay.
No, Moon Presence is fine. It is disappointing because it's like, it's just a trading war. At that point, you're a monster. and I have said this to you before. He doesn't deserve to be the true final boss of Bloodborne. I still agree with that, but I don't care enough about that to say that he's one of the worst.
For lore reasons, I think it's cool that he is.
Exactly. For lore reasons, he's an incredible Lovecraftian final boss in a Lovecraftian game.
And it's cool. And it's cool that he's not hard for lore reasons.
Correct. Yeah. It's great that Gehrman is easily harder to beat than he is.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
And
so
that's for
I would
gameplay reasons. Imagine somebody that was harder than Gehrman after Gehrman.
Yeah, I'd just cry and go back to bed. So number one, worst of all time for me, is because of the disappointment of how incredibly trivial this boss is if you're a parry master. And now you know what I'm talking about. If you're a parry god, the most disappointing fight in all of Dark Souls for me by a long shot is Gwyn.
Yep.
You're gonna go and fight the big bad, the main guy. The getting through this fight is what's going to get you to become, to borrow the Dark Souls 3 stuff, the new Lord of Cinder. And this chump with 100% parryable attacks is your roadblock is so stupid. And I guess it's not true. There is one attack that I remember being not parryable, but it's not going to kill you. And you're just going to stab the crap out of them, and you're going to be like, "This is your god."
Yeah. No, I think Gwyn wins for worst final boss. Definitely the worst final boss, and because it's the very first installment of the real series, because Demon Souls doesn't count for the reasons why it just doesn't. For him being the final boss in the game, in the first game, to set the standard for what final bosses are going to be, that it's an incredible disappointment to me. So that's the disappointment factor is why he's number one. He should have been brutal, and he wasn't. I mean, Dark Souls 3 at least gives you a lot of fan service with their final boss, which surely he's going to make. Yeah, I mean, he made my list of stuff, so I figured he'll make yours too, but we'll talk about him here in a minute. But either way, we should move on to hard. Yeah, okay, so moving on to hardest, I have to make a statement about my hardest list, because I haven't had nearly as much time to game on my own as as I usually would have had.
This is you telling us that you put Melania on the list without playing Melania.
No, this is me saying that the Goddess of Hot deserves a spot.
Oh, yes.
And knowing how I am with the others, I think she would be in my number 4 spot.
She's in my number 3, but I'm with you.
Okay, but she is not there because it would be unfair to put her there. It would be unfair to my list. Not unfair to her, but unfair to my list. So she's not actually on my hardest list. But had I played her, seeing how she moves and how the things are, knowing how I play, I believe she would go in my number 4 spot, but she's not.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Give your number 10 first. Or me.
Number 10.
Yep.
So let's move through 3 at a time for the sake of getting this moving with what we're doing, because we're going to talk about a lot of the same. So we're going to talk about several Dark Souls 1 and 2 bosses here. So again, jump in when you do know something, and then we'll get your reference towards the end of it. So Calamite, very tough. That's just what it is. Dragon bosses are hard. He's one of the hardest. He deserves a spot. Calamite, good enough.
Yep.
Ornstein and Smo makes number 9 for me. It's tough, but it's tough in the way that you're like, oh, I can do this. This is very, very hard, but I see the pathway.
Yep.
So they get there, and then number 8. I think I just did this as an homage, and when I beat this boss, it was early enough on that if I came back now, it'd probably be easier. But I put Fume Knight in number 8. It's tough. It's hard. Not impossible by any standard, and not unfair necessarily. In a game where the mechanics are already kind of broken, what are you going to do? But he deserves a spot in the top 10 for being brutal.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say this on here. Let me make double sure that this is the case. Yeah, my hardest and best bosses, there is not a single Dark Souls 1 or 2 boss on either of those. But
okay. I don't have any more from here on out.
Okay. For my hardest, number 10, most before Elden Ring came out, this made it most people's number 4, but I never had as much trouble with this boss as other people, but it's still a difficult and fun boss. Number 10 is Father Ariandel and Sister Frida. To me, that boss does hold difficulty, but it's not but it's not as bad as what everyone else says. Number
And that's a
9.
Dark Souls 3 DLC boss.
Correct. Number 9 is probably my most controversial one. I don't know, my top 3 may be pretty up there for other people, but this might be my most controversial one. It's the boss that gives me way more trouble than it should, and I always have more trouble with this boss than I should, and so it deserves a spot on my hardest list. Number 9 is the Abyss Watchers. I find the Abyss Watchers hard.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, they can be. I don't know. I don't know what it is. You and I struggle with polar opposite bosses in Dark Souls 3. We always have. And Abyss Watchers was one that I even now I mow through it. I'm like, they're a first try boss for me because you just play the arena. You got plenty of space, and also Dark Souls 3. Abyss Watchers is a prime example of get right on their left side and circle around them and just spin the win, and you're going to be fine. And you can follow the formula so closely for Abyss Watchers that they never make it to a hard list for me, but they're a fantastic boss.
And you also have access to the Store Greatsword before you fight them, I believe.
You can. You can.
And that trivializes the fight because the full weapon art will actually knock them down.
Yeah, you'll completely stagger. I usually, at that point, am using some form. Executioner's Greatsword if I'm not using a Stora, but either way, you can special move them to the ground every time.
Yeah. Number 8, I don't remember the name of this one because the names are so similar. It's either Niall or O'Neill. It's the snowy one.
That's Niall.
Okay.
I believe, yeah. And honestly, I should have put him in my top 10 because he gives me more trouble than any boss in Elden Ring. By a long shot. By a long shot, he's the hardest boss for me, and I don't know why.
Well, see, and also another thing, I actually had a harder time fighting the bell-bearing hunters than I did fighting him, but for some reason he sticks in my mind as harder.
And the bell-bearing hunters suck because, like, of when you meet them, you can meet them, right away if you want to. Like, you could meet one before you gain a single rune, and that'd be a brutal fight. So I'll agree with you there. That their weapon art, and then when you actually get to fight him, Elmer, he's a brutal fight as well.
I beat Elmer on my 3rd try. I don't know why he was easier to me than the bell. This is literally the same fight. I don't know why he was easier.
My 3 for like 7 or 10 to 7 would be the ones that I had a lot of struggle with was Pontiff.
Pontiff Sullivan.
Yeah. Pontiff, Dancer, and then the Abyss Watchers for sure.
Abyss Watchers is a really good take from both of you. Like, I get why it's hard. I think that's just for some reason. Those fights that shouldn't be hard sometimes are tough for me. That one, for some reason, one that I get through is the reason why I didn't make mine. And Dancer's never a bad pick because you can technically get to it pretty low level, not super low level, but you can do it relatively early on enough to where it can be very difficult. And then the spin to win move is brutal and hard to get through. But I will say, Pontiff Sullivan is one of those bosses that if you can't parry is incredibly hard.
That's why it was so hard.
But I mean, like, if you ever watch, Sean has a video on YouTube right now where you get to watch him one shot Pontiff. Sean loves Pontiff.
Yeah, he used to be possibly my hardest boss, and then I learned how to fight him. I just practiced on him, and now I mean I could easily beat him, no trouble, no parries. But he used to be one of my very hardest.
Yeah, he's a hard one to learn because the moves are very, very erratic.
Yeah. Now, I will say this is interesting that you had Dancer near the top or on your top 10. Usually, people who have trouble with Dancer don't have trouble with Osiris, and the other way around.
Yeah, for opposite reasons. For exact opposite reasons. I hate Osiris. It's an incredibly garbage fight. But like, I just finished a playthrough of DS3. I mean, very recently, and I mean,
we don't need the little.
And Osiris is like, I beat him first try, but when you're done, you still want to throw the controller because you're like, what a stupid fight. That's so stupid. Every time he hits you, you're annoyed about it because he shouldn't have hit you. Every time you get run over by that stupid charge, you're like, I hate this game. It's an annoying fight. Not enough to make top 10 worse. Stupid. But those are really solid picks for 10, 9, and 8, and they're all good old-fashioned DS3 bosses.
Now, I'll do my 7 to 5. 7 is my hardest dragon fight. I may change my mind as I do more Elden Ring dragons, but this was
You won't. Midier's harder.
yeah, it absolutely is Midir.
Yeah, Midier's harder.
Yeah, I don't. Now I'm at the point. I mean, it's hard for me to pick hardest Dark Souls 3 bosses. Oh, you want the blanket on? Okay.
He has a very strong opinion about you picking Midir so high on the list.
But it's hard for me to pick top 10 hardest bosses in Dark Souls 3, just because up until recently I played that game enough that every boss was a first try boss, and so how do you say that these are hard? But it was, but I remember how much I struggled with Midir my first times fighting him. And then number 6 hardest, I told you they were gonna make the list. Valiant Gargoyles.
They should.
Yeah.
They're. I don't think they deserve a spot in my top 10, but it's a solid pick for anybody. They're stupid hard.
And then number 5 is only 2 from this game will make the list, but only 1 on the hardest list, and that is the Demon of Hatred. I had a heck of a time with that boss. Probably 35 attempts.
I've never played the game, but the playthroughs look awful.
Well, see, whoa, buddy, let's not mess with that dial. That's the volume knob for the stream. And no, Patrick, stop. But he one of the reasons why he's so hard, in addition to just being hard, you're taught, here is how you defend against attacks. You don't dodge, you don't jump. What you should do is block. And he has, out of his 45 attacks, 3 of them are blockable.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks awful to play. I haven't gotten there. I need to go ahead and get through Sekiro all the way through, but I still haven't. He looks awful. Yeah. You want to do your 3 next? If you can think of 3 more hard ones, I'll do mine after you.
I definitely have top 2.
Just as long as you save the number 1, you can say whatever you want before then.
It would have to be the next. So the next 2 would be Mode.
Okay. Mode's tough.
He gave me a run quite a bit, and I feel like it was a lot harder for me than what it should have been. And Dragon Scale Armor.
Oh, okay.
Just getting down the I never parried. So
he's tough to parry.
Yeah.
I think he's only got an attack or 2 that's parryable at most. He hits hard.
He hits incredibly hard, and he also maybe want to throw my controller across the room.
Yeah, he can be tough, but I don't know. I think I enjoyed that boss a lot, and after you learn him, the attacks aren't necessarily that they're a couple of the attacks are really telegraphed. But the ones that aren't telegraphed are not too hard to dodge is the reason why I don't put him up there. I think the reason why he's so annoying is as he becomes more aggressive and you get the dragons throwing crap at you. And it makes it's almost trivialized difficulty, but it feels okay. But it's still, it's hard. It's a tough ball.
This is Sekiro.
Yeah, back into phone close to you.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Patrick, you gotta go lay down
Hero
with mommy.
would be, the bull that you fight early on.
The early bull or the crazy bull in the palace?
In the palace.
Okay, so the one who the burning bull or the magic bull.
But I think it was the magic one that was in the palace, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, because I realized when I said palace, it could have been I meant the magic palace, but then the other place could also have been considered a palace, so that's why I confused myself. But yeah, the one in the immortal palace city with the salamander people.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah.
So I want to go through. I'll do my 765. I have Lawrence in there. He's pretty tough. It's a brutal boss. It's one of those ones that I don't know if it's the aggression or how sweeping the attacks can be that always messes me up. But I get roll caught. It feels like every time. I feel like I get roll caught every attack.
What an idiot, putting Lawrence on the top 10 hardest list. Loser. Queer.
What a dweeb. I know you. Love Lawrence, and I don't dislike him, but he's tough for me. That one's hard. Number 5, I don't know that I should have put him, or number 6. I mean, I don't know if I should have put him here. I don't know if maybe he's harder than this for me, but we'll get it across. Gale. Gale's tough. The second phase is so shockingly different from the first. The first time you do it, I promise you, I do not believe that anyone out there beat Gale their first time, because the first phase is hard, very hard, and you have to learn it. But then in addition to that, the second phase is such a switch, and then he has the magic attack that's just a one-shot if you get hit with it the right way. I don't believe anyone's ever first tried Gale. I don't believe it. He's hard as nails.
Okay, so do you mean first try or very first attempt ever seeing him beating him first try?
Yes.
Or, okay, I'll say, because I again, Dark Souls 3 boss got to the point where I would go up to him and beat him, but I absolutely didn't know my first time seeing him. Not by a long way.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is, like, I do believe that people can first try him when they know what he's going to do, because he's not impossible to dodge. He doesn't have impossible attacks to get out of the way of. I don't believe there's a lot of parry parry ability for him. Yeah, I think I think it might actually be 0.
It is 0. Yeah.
Yeah, he's you can't trivialize him. You just have to get good.
Yep. Yeah, the only closest way to trivialize him is he does take poise damage, so you can eventually stagger him, but he has the shortest stagger time of any boss. It's only like a second and a half.
Stupid. Yeah, you're talking about 2 R1s at best. Number 5 for me is Nameless King. I think that was one that, like, I think at the time he was considered to be the hardest boss in Dark Souls 3 before the DLC. He's the hardest non-DLC Dark Souls 3 boss. But I think once you learn him, it becomes much easier. But the reason why I still put him at that spot as one of the hardest is because you have to really practice to get good enough to him to trivialize that fight. And when I say trivialize, I mean you can no-hit him. You definitely can. But you have to spend your time getting good and going through those times where you die to get him. And I mean, like, for me, the high point, because we all know the real reason why the Dark Souls games are, like, their particular appeal to the masses, and then for me, is that when you do beat the bosses, it's not like when you beat a game that's an action game, you're like, oh, that was so cool, this thing happened and this thing happened, I beat the game. And when you beat a Dark Souls game or the hard bosses, you're like, you are exhilarated in an angry way. You're like, you're flipping off your screen. I mean, you're just like, yeah, like you're it's a different kind of fulfillment. And I specifically remember beating Nameless King for the first time. Like, I remember, like, having to completely be dialed in and focused. And then when I was like 5 o'clock in the morning, when I was like woke up early, I'm like, I'm gonna beat him today. And like when I beat him, it was just like that was the high point of Dark Souls 3 for me, was beating Gale. As far as for beating a boss, it was the number one moment. I'm like, you're like, yeah, F you.
Wait, Gale or Nameless? You just switched.
I did. I meant Nameless. I looked back at my list and said the wrong name. But the first time I beat Nameless, it was like that. It was an exhilarating moment. It was pretty fantastic. So that's why he's number 5. He's hard.
See, I had as much as I think it's a really, really, really good fight, I was so burned out on Nameless after all the attempts from doing him that when I beat Nameless, this was my response. I got the final attack, he fell down, and I went,
Yeah, I don't know if I'd reached burnout. I'd reached like desperation, so I was like all about it. But now, like, when you know the attacks, you're not going to get hit by the wyvern. You're going to dodge all the really big, the big dust attacks that he throws at you. The AOE's are easier to avoid when you know where to go to avoid them, like right next to him. And if you finally nut up and follow the rule of stick to the crotch, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, and And now, but once you figure out how to fight him, he becomes really, really fun.
Yeah, he's a great boss. He's an incredible boss. Yeah. He may or may not be making the other list as well. Let me go ahead and do 4, 3, 2, and then I'll let you guys do yours.
Okay.
Number 4 for me is Sister Frida. She's harder for me. The first phase is stupid. The second phase is very good. The third phase is just
so good.
A high point of the whole series. What a incredible fight. It's so good.
Lady Frida of the Astral Clock Tower.
Yeah, you know, it's the same fight, but we're okay with it. Which, speaking of which, no, that'll be on a different list. But number 3 is Melania. I think I put her here as a compromise. So I've beaten the game probably 7 times. I fought her all but one of those times. I probably have 20 deaths between all of those playthroughs. And one was at New Game Plus and one was at New Game Plus Plus.
Well, it sounds like you're just a lousy bleed cheater.
Yeah, awful. So the reason why I died all the deaths that I did die was because I'm like, I'm going to fight her with a different build. I started with the bleed build. My New Game Plus and Plus Plus was like, I tried different builds to give some variety, the spice of life.
Just to have done it.
So I was going with it.
Just to have done it.
Just to have done it. So I had like a faith strength build, using a lot of madness stuff. And I could still beat her. That took a few more tries because you have to do a lot more evading. And it just took some more time. So like I can understand why she's so difficult for people. I understand why people say she's number 1 of all time. I can appreciate it. I just don't see it. She's very hard, no doubt. She has so many mechanics that are very hard. But like, you learn how to dodge waterfall, and you know to just not get hit by the big attacks. She's easy to stagger. She's easy to knock out of waterfall. She's easy to get away from the really big bad attacks. And you have enormous, in the second phase, you have just a giant damage window. I mean, the very first time that I beat her is because I got through her first phase. And by the way, I did first try Melania. I did it with a bleed build, but I did first try Melania.
Okay, so now I have to I have to throw this out there for anyone wondering. If you're like, I don't know how to beat this boss, I don't know how to beat the boss, I've never beat her, but I can tell you this right now, just from a mechanical standpoint, she has 85 poise, Flame of the Red Mains does 50 poise damage, do the math.
Yeah, you can absolutely red main her and just knock her down and just keep critical hitting her. But I mean, I was a bleed build already. And this is late game, so you're a good bleed build. I mean, you are an in-game bleed build, and you are an unstoppable jumping slashing machine. You trivialize this boss. You essentially get through the first phase, and then you let her do her big AOE. You just run up and jumping attack her like 3 times. She doesn't even get the chance to attack in phase 2. She just doesn't. You can absolutely annihilate this boss if you stack the right way. You just can. I mean, I knew she was coming. I didn't know how to dodge any of her attacks yet, but I will say I never saw waterfall in my first playthrough. I beat her too quickly. Bleed builds trivialize Melania. You can just chunk away her health like it is not even there, and all the procs reset on phase 2. So just go ahead and start from the beginning with bleed, and you will just wipe out this boss. So again, I understand why she's top number 1 for a lot of people. She should still be in my top 10 because I died to her a good number of times when I was trying to fight her with other really good builds that weren't just game breaking builds. So she's very tough, but not number 1. She's number 3. And number 2 for me is Midir. I struggled with Midir for forever, and I only ever beat Midir when you helped me, Sean. This is the only time I ever beat Midir. He's very hard. I've never soloed him. Tough. I hate Midir. You already talked about him. He's hard because he's a big bad dragon and a hilarious amount of health.
Yep. Sums him up pretty well.
You want to do your next pick first, and you can do yours, Sean, and then we'll all give our number 1.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go ahead and just do my 4. Guardian Ape from Sekiro.
A lot of people have that as a hard one.
Specifically phase 2.
Demon of Hatred, for sure. Number 2, yeah, definitely would have to be Melania and Midir.
Midir's your number 1 big hardest, yeah.
Yeah,
many such
okay
cases. Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Dark Eater's incredibly tough. I didn't put him at number 1 because me and Sean both have the same number 1. I guarantee we do. So you're saying number 1's Midir for you?
Yeah.
All right. I'll say, Sean, I'll say it first and you can say it.
Hold on. Let me give my 4-3-2 so you can...
Oh, I forgot. My bad.
Keep going. Number 4 is Gehrman the First Hunter.
Really?
Yes, very hard boss for me.
He's very hard. He didn't make my top 10, but yeah, he's very hard.
So I struggled with the hunter bosses for a while. We had to see how I am now, but it was very funny. My very first time fighting him, I got him down to like 2 hits left. And that was my very, very, very first attempt. I got him down to like 2 hits, and then he beat me. It then took me 52 more attempts to beat him.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny to me because you and I have difficulties with such different bosses. Because I've died to Gehrman a total of 5 times in 3 playthroughs, and all of those times were in my first playthrough.
Wow. Yeah. No, I have a hard time with hunter boss. Also, I have a hard time with Gascoigne too sometimes, but because he has such little health.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to throw this in there. Fun fact about Gascoigne. I died to Gascoigne in my first playthrough several times when I was playing with you, and we had trouble with him. I even duoing him. It was hard. I only cheese Gascoigne.
Yeah.
If you do the snare cheese, I think you take hits. I do it because I'd rather just get past him. So I really don't know how hard he actually is for me anymore, because I cheese him every time. Because why not?
Yeah. And you can also get the you can also get him in beast form to jump off the map and kill himself.
I've seen that, but it's harder to predict. You can do the cheese.
It's fairly consistent as long as you can get the as long as you can bait out that attack. It's one particular attack that does it, and if you can get that attack, it's very consistent. The only difficulty is getting that attack to come out. But
and I don't try that. I just do the cheese. I just want past him.
Yeah. So number 3 is Gale.
Good option. Yes, he should have made my list higher too, if I'm being honest.
Is very, very good. Oh, and also, just so you know, if I had fought the Goddess of Hot, she would have been in number 4, like I said before. But I haven't, so I can't reasonably put her anywhere.
That's fair.
Yeah, and so my number 2 hardest boss in all of Soulsborne is going to be the Orphan of Kos.
Why'd you put him at number 2? Keep going.
Because my number 1 is harder.
You're wrong, but go ahead. Say what again.
Fantastic boss though. Very, 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 very fun. I recommend. I recommend reading the horror at St. Martin's Beach.
Because that's what it is.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah, it's Orphan of Kos is the creature from that. It's well, I don't remember her name, but Lovecraft's wife. They wrote that story together.
Yes.
And
Green.
it's an amazing short story, and yes, it absolutely inspired Orphan of Kos. And if you know that going into it, you're going to be in awe of this fight.
Yeah, it's fantastically good. But and knowing how that story ends means that Bloodborne deserves a second DLC.
Oh, absolutely.
But a very, very, very good fight. I'll let you go into a bit more detail on him on your number 1 spot.
You should.
Yeah, and so that's where my number 2 ends. Manny already gave his number 1. So Tyler, you just so we know that your number 1 is the Orphan of Kos. So go ahead and talk about him for a little bit, and then I'll give my number 1.
I put him as number 1 because I've only beaten him twice. The first time, I don't want to think about how many times I died to him. I don't know the answer. I do not know the answer. I just don't. When I did my most recent playthrough of Bloodborne, which is not long ago, I died. I think I died to the Living Failures once or twice because I accidentally got hit by their one shot. No other boss in the game I had to try twice. None of them. Not a single one. I knew how to build. I knew what my build should be. I knew where to find all the upgrades to make myself a god early. I was trouncing people. I was a high level when I went to Orphan. I know I died 25 times. He has bizarre moves. His ranged attacks, he can throw them out very easily. He'll just mess with you. His big AoE, which is arena wide, except for the very, very entrance, is very hard to get away from if you're not waiting on it and not positioning yourself. If you stick hard to his left side, you can do it. It's one of those bosses that still feels fair. It still feels like it's fair, which is why it's so good. And he didn't make my top 10 best. I figured you'd put him in there, and I had some other ones I could talk about. And he's a damage sponge. So I mean, I was a monster. I was doing everything the right way. I was like pre-fighting the right way, but he's just he hits too hard and he's too aggressive to not be number one for me. He is the big bad of the Soulsborne series for me.
So, for me, the number one hardest boss in all of Soulsborne, hands down, I didn't even have to think about it. Like, no one else even comes close. And that would be Lawrence the First Vicar.
That's fair. He's high up on the list for me too.
Yeah, you had him, I think, at number 6, and I'm in front of you for putting him on the list. Yeah.
Yeah. Lawrence is tough.
Yeah,
Lawrence
he
is
is.
insanely tough. I don't think he's I can't put him at number one, but
Yeah.
he's very tough.
For me, he is the only. So I beat him. I was playing with Jediah, and I beat him then. He is the only boss in the entire Soulsborne of all the bosses that I've fought. He is the only one that I have never beat solo.
Yeah, that was Midir for me. So I mean, I get it, but yeah, I can understand that because he is very tough. He's just one of those bosses that the aggression isn't as difficult for me to handle as Orphan is, I guess. I think the first time we fought him together, and I don't think it took us but a couple tries because the way that he divides his attention when you have two people is enough to like just really smack the booty, and it's not so bad. So you can really just blow by him in a duo fight, and then by then I already knew all of his moves. So when I came in again, it just came a little more naturally for me, but he was still very tough.
All right.
I'll accept that answer. Before we go into best, I'm gonna go pee real quick. You guys chat amongst yourselves about stuff. Corona, I don't care.
Corona.
Which sort?
It was. I almost wanted to put Fire Giant in place of Guardian Ape, but during that time before he got fixed, Fire Giant could be. There was a way to cheese him and to get him to like fall off the cliff, which I may or may not have done. And yeah, so he was definitely a runner-up.
Yeah. So gravity magic dual swords massively armored Kaled boss man. Not Radagon, but sounds so much like it that I can't think of another name. I can't think of his real name, but I did not fight him pre-patch, but I heard that he was pre-patch. He was the hardest boss that FromSoft had put out to that point. To the point that that's why they patched him down so much. And I didn't fight him before then, and I wonder where he would have made my list if my first playthrough had been pre-patch.
Yeah, he was able to. You were able to cheese him. Granted, his attacks are pretty easy to dodge, but he would absolutely just annihilate.
Who are we talking about?
Fire Giant. Pre-patch Fire Giant.
Pre-patch. Yeah, pre-patch was tough. I will say he's very, very tough, and I will allow that as an answer. Someone spoiled that the ankle's the weak spot for me, and again, bleed builds trivialize. So I beat him first try on the phone with a friend talking about the game when I fought him, just because, again, I knew where to hit, and bleed builds are just unfair.
Yeah.
But he's very tough. A huge amount of health.
You get Rivers of Blood right before him, too.
Right before him, and it does not matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does not matter. It's hard to beat him even with Rivers of Blood.
Yeah.
Now, I will say one of my bosses on my best, on my top 10 best, is an Elden Ring boss that was so much fun that even though I beat him on my first try with a standard build, he was still so much fun that he had to make it to my top 10 best because he was so good. But that's
with that note, let's go ahead and move on to top 10 best.
Okay, well, so he's not in 10, 9, or 8, so you won't hear him here. But 10, 9, and 8. So like I said, I haven't beat because I keep starting over again every time, and I should just go to an old data. But whatever, I haven't made it through Anor Londo on Dark Souls 1. So because of that, I have to give my current favorite duo boss in the top 10 slot, and that is the Demon Princes. I said before that all the Izalith bosses were boring. That does not apply to the Demon Princes. They are a lot of fun, and I enjoy them.
They're a lot of fun, and they have a really fair amount of difficulty, no matter what anyone says.
Yep.
I know people like complain about it. It's good. It's a good fight.
And then the phase 2 being different based on whichever demon you kill first.
Yes.
Like that's so brilliant.
Yeah. It's very, very good, and they kind of emulated that fight to a degree in Dark Souls 3 with the DLC boss.
Patrick, buddy.
We've made a mess. Sean's gonna clean up a mess.
Give me that towel. Give me that towel.
He's gonna put a towel on the mess.
Thank you, buddy.
What happened? Are you okay?
Yeah, he just dumped my drink. It didn't hit my keyboard. It just hit the side of my mouse. Couldn't have got inside it. But I told him to go lay down with you, but I guess he ignored me.
No, I was.
That's what babies do.
Oh yeah, you want to go night night with Mama now? Yeah. Now that you, yeah. But
Other than that, Bostage.
yeah. But yeah. He well, here's how close he came to spilling on the keyboard. The bottle hit some keys. But yeah, number 9, Nameless King. Very, very, very good fight. I enjoyed it a lot.
Hard agree.
Yeah, I don't know if he deserved to be higher, but he's not. But yeah, we'd already talked about him. No reason to keep going on. Number 8. I'm not going to talk about him too much, although Manny will understand why he's here, and you won't. And that would be Owl the Father. Definitely deserves to be in the top 10. Might be the best fight in that game, honestly. The final boss Ishin fight is really good, but I think Owl the like prime Owl, I guess, when you fight him in the Butterflies Arena, that's such a good fight.
It would have to be Lady Butterfly for me. In that spot.
For top, number 10, top best?
Yeah.
That you did 10 out of 8, right, Sean?
10, 9, 8, yep.
Yeah, go ahead and do your do 10 out of 8 to the best, like your favorite fights.
Lady Butterfly was like
Calm down, man.
I consider the real first boss fight in Sekiro. 9.
Man. I don't think they have to
Rykard.
be in that perfect order. So
Yeah.
it's like, Rykard.
Yeah.
He's the best gimmick boss.
Yeah. He, more so just flavor wise, just really like I really enjoyed it, even though I cheesed him because I stacked Vigor, which is fire resistance, and I just decided to take fire damage and being right up on him.
Yeah.
And I just kited him.
Yeah, you can just walk right up in his business and
Yeah.
beat the crap out of him.
That's literally what I just did.
The reveal is great. The second phase reveal, the
Yeah.
first time you watch it is like a really great moment.
Especially
So
because if you pay attention after the fact, you can see the face during the serpent fight.
Yeah.
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 And hold on, I put together a last minute list here.
I'm reading mine off. Read yours off. Excuse me. Uncalled for, uncouth.
I think it would.
The top 3 are the only ones that really matter about being top 3.
Yeah.
10, 8, 9, 8. It can be whatever order.
It's definitely a Bloodborne boss. I'm just trying to pick which one. I would have to say the one Reborn.
Really?
Yeah.
I hate that fight.
Yeah, but more so flavor wise, but
That's fair. It's got a really great cutscene at the end.
Yeah.
It's really story driven.
Yeah,
It's fair. Flavor-wise,
it's a
good boss.
cool fight. Whether or not it's fun, it's cool.
right.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm basing my meter on as far as best.
I think it makes me angry because you have like the one, like the nearly arena wide poison attack. Not poison, but I guess we'll call it poison, whatever you want to call it. The big, like, goopy ground. Essentially, the same reason why I hate the Curse Rotted Great Wood is the reason why I hate that attack in the One Reborn. But whatever, doesn't matter. If you like it, I'm happy for you. I just hate it.
Here you go, Tyler. This will do it for you. You get your saw cleaver,
Always.
pop a bolt paper, and a beast blood pellet.
Oh
And
yeah,
just
no, I do that every time. I
stack transformation attacks until you build up your beast meter, and then just destroy him.
No. Here's the thing. My past 2 or 3 playthroughs, I've one tried him. It's not that he's so hard I can't beat him. I hate the fight. I just hate it. It's like, why is this here? You basically just do the go smack the booty. You go to the left side or the right side, and you can just tank the little arm attacks. Who cares? You're gonna get all of your health back. It doesn't matter. It's just a stupid fight. That's my thing. It's stupid.
Yep.
10, 9, and 8 for me. So for number 10, I have 2, because instead of doing an honorable mention, I'm going to have that 10 and 9, or number 10 is a duel. I'm going to say either Artorias or Champion Gundyr. They're both great fights. Obviously, Artorias, I don't like to fight with Artorias as much, but it's more lore heavy.
I had a dog named Artorias.
I know. I remember that.
Died 2 weeks after I got him.
It's the puppy diseases. Champion Gundyr, I like Champion Gundyr for lore reasons, because if you dive into it more, you get to hear his story. It is actually quite interesting of why he's where he is. And he's a great fight. Champion Gundyr is a good fight. It's incredibly fair and balanced, no matter what you say. It's incredibly fair and balanced. He's the first experience for me of tracking, but tracking in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, some
it's the
people
first
like
time
him a
feel
lot.
like you feel like you're fighting a player with the way he tracks you.
Yeah.
It's not unfair, but it's not input reading. It's tracking, and it's good.
Yeah, no, they didn't really introduce input reading until Elden Ring.
Right. Yes. No. That's the distinction here for me. Is that it's not input reading. It's tracking, and it's done beautifully. And like every single time, you think like, all right, I dodged that one really big sweep. Okay, I recognize that this happened, so the follow-up's going to happen. Time for an R2. Nope. Kick right to your face. Tracking straight behind his head to your mouth.
Yep.
Every time. It's beautiful. And it's like, this is what a real person would have done to me if I were fighting them. This feels like a real 1v1, and it's beautiful. I love it every time. It's I actually died to him twice in my most recent playthrough because I forgot about how good the tracking was. Just a great boss.
Yeah,
Love it.
Yeah, he deserves a spot. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 9 for me is Abyss Watchers. We've already talked about them. I love them because very lore heavy. The arena's incredible. The transformation's incredible. There's that weird thing of you have a guy, you get to see the infighting between them as to why they're all killing each other. You get to have the guy who pops up and technically helps you, even though if you get in his way, he will still hurt you because you're the ultimate bad for them. But like it's a heartbreaking part of Dark Souls 3.
He fights everyone, and it's fun.
Yeah, it is. It is one of the it's one of my favorite Vadi Time to Cry videos too. Great lore.
Yep.
Number 8 for me is the Godfrey / Horaloo fight.
Okay.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful fight. It's a top fight in the game. Again, very fair. And then when the giant AoEs that seem ridiculous happen, you really do get the feeling because it's like, no, it's because you're fighting, a demigod. This is what he should be able to do. Yeah, this is it. This is a great fight. It's absolutely fantastic. And I just love it. I love that you cannot trivialize him. You can cheese him in a cheating way, but you can't cheese the fight. I mean, like, if you're like, okay, I've got plenty of distance here, I'm going to go ahead and get another buff in, then I'm going to plan my next attack. Nope, right up in your grill, I'm going to smack you in the face, and you know it's coming. Once you learn his patterns, it feels really fair, because you can kind of bait him in the same way that you can bait Gold Godfrey. And then, like, so if you were already fighting Gold Godfrey, you see a few new attacks, it's good, but then all of a sudden you get him down to that close to halfway point, and you get the cutscene, which is a brutal cutscene, and then he pops up as Horaloo, and 100% of his moveset changes. His weapon changes, his outfit changes, his aggression level changes. He becomes a completely different boss. It's a high point.
Yeah, I hear that Godfrey is much better than Goldfrey.
By every single way imaginable.
Goldfrey, easy boss.
Goldfrey, easy boss. Okay, I'm going to go and do my next 3 since I went last.
Okay.
Number 7's Nameless King for me. We already talked about him.
Yep. Good man.
So no point going into again. Number 6 for me is Ornstein and Smo.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's the best duo fight. But also, in the same way that you were talking about the princes, it has that same element. Who you kill first matters.
Yep. Well, technically, who you kill.
You know. Say what?
So technically, who you kill matters.
Well, you know.
No,
I mean, like, there's something about the balance. Most duo fights don't have balance. You're balanced between quick-moving aggressor and a slow-moving heavy hitter. And then you think, oh, I'm going to take out the aggressor because he's going to be hitting me in the back. But then all of a sudden now you've got the heavy hitter that now has the speed and aggression because you've killed the aggressor first. So you really have to plan it out. You really have to take your time to plan it as far as like who you're going to kill when. And you have to check the arena. Amazing fight. It's so good for me. And then number 5, I'm splitting the final boss of Elden Ring into 2 because Elden Beast is just stupid. If he beats you, it's because he hits you with one of his really big attacks. He just vigor checks you. I'm splitting it because Radagon is the most perfect fight in Elden Ring.
Radabeast.
Huh?
Radabeast.
Yeah, Radabeast. I'm separating the 2, which I'm not allowed to do, but I'm doing it anyways. I'm separating him from Elden Beast because Elden Beast fight is dumb. Radagon is a perfect fight. The aggression is high, but the aggression changes throughout. But you can see all of his moves are done in a way that you can avoid them. You absolutely can no-hit him if you're really good. But he's very difficult, but very fair. Hilariously lore heavy. And even in a game series that prides itself in being very cryptic in its lore, it's lore that makes very good sense. It's lore that you understand, and the weight of what you're doing is really obvious. So you have lore heavy. He's difficult, but not in a way that would like kill. And that would just like be an impassable boss, so he doesn't make the top 10 for difficulty. And he's just a fun fight. I have fun with this fight every time. I mean, even now playing it, it's a blast. And you can duo him, that's fine. Summon somebody else in, that's fine. He doesn't care. He's going to beat the crap out of both of you. He'll switch in the middle. And this is where the only time that I think input reading is good. Because when you summon in, which I know a lot of people consider summoning cheating, that's fair. I don't care. I'll do it whenever I want. I don't give a crap about that. You can summon someone else in, and they'll take the aggression, and I'll start walking over to them, and you'll see him raise the hammer for an attack. And you're like, all right, here's my chance for a good R2. You start holding down the button, and he turns around and beats the crap out of you. He's the ultimate summon cheeser. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about it. He'll wreck both of you, and pretty much impervious to statuses. So good luck. Just either get good or get out. He's the ultimate.
Yeah, indeed. All right, I guess you go ahead and go, Manuel, on your next 3.
Nameless King, for sure.
As it should be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, Mommy, I'll get it for him.
I really enjoyed the fight, but it was super hard.
Very hard. Very, very hard.
Jin Ichiro from Sekiro.
Like the second time you fight him.
One.
Yeah, like
The second.
Yeah.
you fight him 3 times, and if you didn't know, Tyler,
I thought it was the second time that was supposed to be the really crescendo one.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
It is. It is the first time he's almost impossible. The third time he's a chump.
Yeah, I remember. I've read into it enough to know about a good chunk of the bosses in Sekiro, and I'm definitely going to play it. It looks like an absolute blast. I hate myself for having not gotten through all the way through it yet. But yeah. Anyways, you have another one.
I have a third.
Yes, you do.
Number 5.
Radagon.
Yeah.
Radagon.
I talked you into it, and I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
He's good.
In the exact same space too.
Yeah, in the same space as it should be. Same thing for Nameless.
Yep.
We are 1. You're
Yeah.
3.
It was going to be a toss-up between my first and third answer, and I guess it's not really in any kind of particular order.
Doesn't have to be. Yeah. Not till we get to the top. 765.
765.
Sean.
Okay, so number 7. I said before there was a Elden Ring boss that I one shot, but he was still so good I wanted him on the list, and here he is. It's Morgott.
Yeah.
Big Morgott fan. Very good fight.
Should be. It's a great fight, especially the first time.
Yep. And then number 6 made it to my hardest bosses. It's Gehrman, the first hunter.
Beautiful fight.
Yeah, huge fan of it. I said I'm not good at it. That doesn't make any difference though. I still love it. And number 5 is the same fight that should have been harder, but it wasn't for some reason. Lady Maria. Absolutely adore that fight also. I probably should have combined them and put something else there, but I wanted to talk about both. Yeah, it's such a good series of fights.
It's very good. Very good. You want to go and do 4, 3, 2?
Sure. Yep. So number 4. Most people put this in their top 4 hardest as their 4th hardest. I'm putting this as my 4th best. Father Ariandel and Sister Frida. Fantastic.
Top 10, but I knew that you would, so I'm like, I'll pick some other stuff.
Yeah. Number 3, kind of controversial that it should be here, because who wants this in their top 3? Me. I do. Shadows of Yharnam.
It's good. It's a good fight. It's a really good.
Yeah. I love fighting the Nazgul. It's very fun.
The Nazgul is a fun fight. I enjoy it. I enjoy the strategy because it's probably the most strategy deep boss of Bloodborne in my. You have to really not only do you have to fight them in a certain order, you have to do some damage to all of them the whole time if you want to do it. Yeah, good fight. It's a good.
But yeah, but then of course once you get down to Candleman, you can break his AI, and it's so fun. It's so funny to do that. But yeah, and then number 2. Well, I wrote Gary. I hope I meant Gale.
I'm going to assume you did too.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel better, I put Duke Knight earlier instead of Fume Knight because I think it's spell checked me, but sure.
That's what I get for writing it on my phone, I guess. But yeah, no, Gary, one of my very favorite Dark Souls 3 fights. One of my favorite Dark Souls 3 fights. Very good boss, very fun fight. And I mean, he's such a great balance of super hard and super fun, and he's been described as Artorias of the Astral Clock Tower.
I like that,
and I think that's fair. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that fight. I mean, I don't know how to talk. You already talked about it. You talked about how great he was, and you're right. He's great.
Yeah, I'll do 4, 3, 2, and then you can do 4, 3, 2.
Okay.
So for number 4 for me is Malekith. So if you play the game the right way, you actually get introduced to the Beast Clergyman decently early on, and he's kind of he's a friendly NPC that gives you stuff.
Define friendly. He's kind of mean.
He's rude, but he's technically a friendly in that he doesn't attack you on sight, which is kind of the definition of friendly in Soulsborne games. You get to go on quest for him. If you complete his stuff, you actually get a bunch of really good stuff early. You get an ultimate upgrade for a weapon from him at the very end. And I did go all the way through. I was trying to do 100% through on my first run, so I get to go all the way through it before I ever made it to his actual fight. So you walk into the arena, and this is a very important thing if you guys haven't done it this way. If you complete his quest line before you fight him, his dialogue when you enter the arena is completely different. He actually gets distraught. He says something like "tarnished why," and he gets really upset, and and then he's does some kind of a no matter or whatever kind of a thing. But you actually upset him if you finish his quest line before you fight him, and it's a really interesting lore aspect that makes you feel really different coming into the fight. But it's a big reveal either way, because you're there he is. This is who is blocking our path. And that's pretty cool. And then you get him down to half health, and the cutscene for the transformation, and then who he turns into in the second phase is
a crazy change with incredible status effects that are just hard to get over. I did not first try him, even though I was a monster at this point in the game. And I, again, first tried Godskin on the same playthrough. Could not first try Malekith. I think it took 2 or 3 attempts. Even being an absolute, like, unstoppable force, it didn't matter. He can completely trivialize you with just 2 attacks in his second phase. He's tough, incredible lore, incredible fight. He's number 4 for me. Number 3, I have Ludwig. It's really good. It's in a tough to swallow part of the DLC. It's kind of brutal walking. The whole DLC is actually more brutal than the rest of the game, in my opinion. That particular DLC, portion of the DLC, is very brutal. You're in an arena that feels very bleak. He comes out and it's gross. But then you get to that second phase, and you get to like the redemption arc of the character in the second phase, and he pulls out the OG sword from all the Dark Souls games, and just beats the crap out of you with it. And then you have access to it. That's how you actually get, that version of whatever moon sword you prefer to call it. That's how you get a hold of it in Bloodborne. So it's a very important fight in that aspect. Lots of lore, lots of emotion. Killer, yeah, big fan of the fight.
He deserved really to be on my list. I don't know why. Like, it's a fantastic balance of extreme difficulty but extreme fairness. Like, he's the most balanced, highly difficult boss that there is. But there's just something about him. I didn't have as much fun as a lot of people do. If you watch D-mods, he will always be the number 1 best boss every time. But I don't see it.
I don't think he's number 1, but he deserves a spot for me. I have him at number 3. That's where I think he's one of the few spots that I actually think number 3 is where I think that my spot's even correct. So I'm going to leave it be. And number 2, I'm doing the Lord of Cinder. It's such a fan service fight. And he's the kind of boss that deserves to be a final boss. I complained that the final boss, Gwyn being a final boss, is an absolute letdown. He's the opposite. He's difficult. He changes in between the different forms, literally just for fan service. That's all that it's for, and I really appreciate it. But also the lore implications are that's you.
Are you clean?
From previous Dark Souls games. And that's one of the theories that I love the most. That's my favorite theory. That's not like a proven thing. Is you are fighting the version of you that rekindled the flame, and that's heavy. And then when he also is using all of the big different forms from other like really recognizable bosses and really recognizable attacks, all while being fair. Not the most fair, but fair. Just great. Absolutely great boss, and with the lore implications being a little bit deeper than normal, if you follow like the kind of Vadi theories, then I think he deserves number 2 for me.
Okay, yeah, no, phase 2 is great because I think you said this. Brooke was talking to me about the possibility of me having poop on me, and so I didn't catch it. So you may have said this, but. Yeah, the phase 2 is like every problem you have with Gwyn. The phase 2 is Gwyn without those problems.
Yes. Yes. You're fighting the fight that should have happened at the end of Dark Souls 1. So, okay, number 1's Manny. You just looked at your phone. I'll pretend like that was you checking your number 1. What's your number 1?
My number 1?
Yeah, your favorite Soulsborne fight, period. Like, when you get here, you're like, yes, this fight.
Divine Dragon.
Interesting.
For sure.
That's really cool. I like that. Okay, so there was something wrong with me. There was something wrong with that fight. So I killed the disease dragon trees, and then I got up there, and I got he takes, I think, 4 hits. I hit him 3 times, and then I could not get anything. Like I forget exactly how I had to wind up getting the 4th hit, but I couldn't. It just like usually the lightning would go to the pillars, and I could just top on the pillar and get lightning struck and get him. And I don't remember actually how to get the 4th hit in, but it was abnormal. It took me forever to figure it out.
It was eventful when I was fighting him because it was
It was like one of those boss fights that took me a week.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but solely speaking about flavor wise, it was definitely that or Lord of Cinder, for sure. Yeah.
So I'm gonna make you go next, Sean.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be controversial. Not controversial, but you're not gonna agree with me that it's the best ever.
Well, you're not going to agree with me that this is the best ever either. I said he deserves a spot here, and I don't know why this is my favorite fight, but this is my favorite fight in all of Soulsborne. And you already talked about him, Champion Gunder. I
had a feeling you might go with
fight.
him for number one because you always talk about how much you love this boss fight.
Yep. I mean, yeah, no reason to go into you. When I mean, my thing with it is like, you said, you think it's so cool because of the lore. So mine isn't really lore. It's I guess it is mechanics, but it's so much fun because like you can, if you want to be a parry god, you can do that. If you want to just fight him, you can do that. Parrying does make it easier, but I can't say it trivializes it. But it's one of those things that you're allowed, whatever your mistake is, whether it's parry timing, whether it's dodging, whether it's healing, attacking, whatever, you're allowed 3 mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's so much fun.
And the punishment is heavy, but fair. It always feels fair. That's one thing that I like about it. When you get punished, a lot of times you get punished in games, especially in Elden Ring's the worst for this. A lot of times in these games you get punished and you're like, "Screw you, that's stupid." And not with him. You're like, "Yeah, no, I get it." Okay, so you might have noticed that I didn't mention this one already in my top 10, and you had, and it would be ridiculous for me not to mention my top 10, and it's because it's the best fight for me. And this is because we all have at least one boss that you approach and you go, dang it, I don't want to do this. Like, this fight's going to suck because it just sucks. Whether it's because it's super hard or because it's just a sucky fight, you get that feeling. But then you also have those bosses that are really good. You're like, I can't wait to fight this boss. This is always such a fun fight. It's going to be a blast. And this boss for me is a perfect mix of those two things. I'm dreading it because I know it's brutal. But I'm so excited because it's such a great fight.
Is this where you're putting Morgoth?
Oh, yeah. Number one fight, Morgoth, best boss ever. And I really struggled between putting this one and Frida in here because it's the same fight.
Oh, okay.
And it's Maria. Maria's number one, and I think it's because like the hunter fights are hard, and she's the hardest. She's the hardest hunter fight. I understand why you say Gehrman. Gehrman's really brutal, but there's something about the three phases are great. But like watching her, especially if you know the lore, the entire concept of this character is that she has given up the fighting with blood. She's given up using it. She does not do it anymore. She thinks it's reprehensible. But you get to the first phase and you watch her go deeper and deeper into it because she's like, all right, well, I'm not gonna be the one to lose here. So I'm gonna go into the thing that I don't like. It's kind of like an anime arc watching this fight because you're like watching them dive and I said I'd never do this again. But it's in such a cool. I wouldn't leave your phone there, by the way. It'll fall down in that crack. You get to watch that happen, which is awesome. And then the phase 3, the transition into phase 3, just that giant fountain of blood that spews out of her, and then the level of aggression that she says she takes it to in that third phase, and the range attacks, the blood attacks. It's brutally hard, but it's not as fair when I think about balance. But it's incredibly hard. It's an incredibly great fight. The approach to get to her is interesting, and then immediately walking out of her boss arena is one of the most what is this? And you get to walk right into Lovecraft. So I mean, it's also a very it's the high point of the PvE experience for me is that entire section of walking into her room, fighting her, and walking out of her room. The mechanism to get out of her room, the place you walk into being the Lovecraft area. It's number one for me.
Yeah. So I don't know how much stock you want to put into this, but in the game files there are There were allowances for 3 different versions of Maria to potentially be able to be encountered. There is the version where you had killed her earlier, the version where she had killed herself, and the version where Simon had killed her. And the version that it made it to the final game, and
Killed herself.
Simon.
Oh, I thought the entire thing was that she had killed herself.
And maybe that's what the lore they decided on was, because they didn't actually do the 3 versions, the option of the 3 versions like there was, but the actual final one that made it to the game, in the files, is the one that was killed by Simon.
Yeah, the lore implications is that she killed herself. But yeah, either way, incredible. It's the points in the DLC where you go, okay, this feels right. This is good DLC, because everything up to that was really blasé, not a lot of fun. It was fine. It just wasn't amazing. It was like, oh, this was good. I'm glad we had this. But like the bosses were fine, but the areas were annoying. And then you get into here, and it's like, oh, this is the pinnacle. And then from then on out, it's amazing.
Try to get gardening done. Well, I was going to.
Indeed.
Mom
Yeah,
said
but
it's
yeah,
rain all week, so
that's
I don't
essentially
know.
all the things to talk about.
Well, in that case, Manny, do you have a story to leave us on?
A story.
Oh.
Just say something.
Yeah. So